Online communities are nothing new, but if that online community is at the heart of your business, you need to look after your people. The fact is, if you've built a strong following and you provide a community for them, you're probably going to be a busy person already. Now, you wouldn't invite people to dinner and then not look after them, and smart people know that a strong online community needs a strong online community manager. This week's guest is Diana Tower, and she lives and breathes hiring and supporting killer community managers. Hi there, and welcome back to Amplify, the Digital Marketing Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Bob Gentle, and every Monday I'm joined by amazing people who share what makes their business work. If you're new to the show, then take a second right now to subscribe in your player so you don't miss new episodes, and you can dig into some older ones when you finish this one. Don't forget to join our Facebook community. Just visit the shortcut URL amplifyme.fm/insiders and you'll be taken right there. So, welcome along, and let's meet Diana. This week I'm delighted to welcome Diana Tower to the podcast. Diana, do you want to start by maybe just introducing who you are, where you are, and the kind of work you do?
Sure thing. So I am originally Canadian, but I live in the south of Spain with my husband and my son, and I am a community strategist, and I specialize in actually hiring and training unicorn community managers for established memberships. Define
unicorn community managers, because and also community manager and also online community. There's a lot to unpack there.
Let's go basic, because this is so funny that you asked that, because even in a community yesterday, I did a guest spot. I was live in this community and somebody asked me, like, what's a community manager? And so for me, it's so obvious. And I think, oh, maybe people don't understand what it is. And so, first of all, the misconception is it's not a social media manager. Okay, so what people think is people confuse community with, say, like their email list or the people they have on Instagram or this sort of thing. Like that's like a buzzword now. It's like, oh, engage with your community, in social media. And that is one way of looking at it. But the way that I deal with community is it's a group of people that are in a space, typically in my case online, that are sharing the same struggle, or they have the same goal, and they're working towards solving that or working towards, achieving that goal together. So it's like kind of like if you think of it like real life, your community, like I live on the street and my neighbors and the people that are sort of in your life with you, and they kind of have the same sort of situations going on. It's kind of the same thing. So that's community, at least the way that I'm talking about it. So a community manager is a person that is specifically dedicated to facilitating that group. So it could be a Facebook group, it could be, say, Mighty Networks, or any platform. It could even be like a forum. But it's a person that's specifically there to facilitate connection and sort of, make sure that the space is safe for everybody to be there. And so this is the thing. So a lot of people just think, oh, like a community manager is somebody who's really empathetic and really engaging and like a cheerleader. And that's one piece of it. That's like the tip of the iceberg. But the way that I look at it, so a community manager holistically, there's all these different aspects that you can look at. So for example, like when I'm assessing somebody to hire as a community manager, I actually look at 9 different points. Okay, and so this, maybe we'll talk about that in a second. I don't want to get too pulled into that. But I'm assessing everything from, how they write, how they're thinking, how they make people feel in the community, how they foster connections between members, the type of content they're writing, how they enforce guidelines, making sure people, feel welcome and encouraged, and helping them, achieve their goals. There's so many different things. And then there's like admin stuff behind the scenes. So maybe it's like, for example, with Facebook, like you have to like let people in and get people out, posting things, scheduling posts, and also just collecting information. So for example, if you're the owner of a membership, maybe you don't have the time to be in the community, but you still want to be, cheering people on when they have a win or some success. Or, if somebody is having a rough time, maybe you can sprinkle in some love for that person. but you don't have time to be scrolling for hours every day. Imagine you have, 500, 5,000 people in this membership. And so that's where you can lean on your community manager to go in and sort of gather that information and create, a document that makes it easy for you to see what's happening, grab a link, jump in, and sprinkle some love in your community. So that's just like a really high level look at like what a community manager is. And I think, was there something else that we covered? What is community manager? Was there something else?
Well, there was one question I wanted to ask you, which was online communities, Facebook groups, forums, things like that. For a lot of people, that's sort of native territory. But can you maybe give some examples of what an intentional community like that might be?
Like, so some specific examples like of clients or people I've worked with?
If you like.
Sure, definitely. So, for example, like the first community, so originally, so like rewind the clock, like probably like 5 years, I was teaching English in Madrid. So I was an ESL teacher and I was teaching in person, but then I moved south to live with my now husband. And so I started teaching online with them, which then made me want to teach for myself online and set up a business. And so when I was doing research for that, I discovered Ramit Sethi. Okay, so if anybody has not heard of Ramit Sethi, he runs a company called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Sounds super scammy, but he actually is like personal finance, online business. He's kind of in that online space. And so he was launching a program called Zero to Launch, which I then joined. And he had a coaching membership as well called Accelerator. And I wanted to go in, I wanted the support, and I wanted to be able to kind of go faster. And so I joined this membership. And it was a Facebook group, and they had coaching. And I don't know what came over me, but I could not stop myself from helping other people. So I went in, I started like cheering people on, like editing people's copy, like creating documents to help people, like commenting, and just basically doing what a community manager does, but I wasn't getting paid. Like this was just because I love doing it. And long story short, they offered me a job, I think 2 months in. And so they brought me on as the community manager. And then I was also working with them as a business coach for the same membership. And so that was like my first taste of like a membership community and being a community manager myself. And it's fascinating because a lot of people don't even realize that community managers exist. They just think, oh, I'll just get a VA to, do a checklist of community related tasks. Which for myself, it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Yes, it's kind of like a Band-Aid, right? Because as your membership grows, you think, oh, well, I can't do this myself. I'll just delegate to a VA and then I have more time to myself. But you really want to have like a professional taking care of your community, especially with a membership, because the community is like the driver of retention. And so you want to keep people there and keep people happy. And so that's like the fundamental role of a community manager, is boosting retention and keeping people happy. So other examples, I would say probably the biggest or most well-known that I know of is Carrie Green. So the Female Entrepreneur Association, they have the membership, and there's 5,000 people in there. And so that's a Facebook group as well. What else? There's so many examples. Like I know Chris Ducker has the Academy for Youpreneur. That is not on Facebook. That's actually like in a forum style setting. Like there's so many good examples. Like Mike and Callie as well, the membership guys. They have a membership for memberships, which is super meta. And they have, it's a community, it's like a forum built into their WordPress website. And so it's so fascinating. Like you can just see like so many different examples, and also the subject matter for memberships. So for example, like I have a client who helps coach Etsy shop sellers, and she has a membership. Obviously, for example, training people about memberships or business. My latest client though, she has a membership teaching women how to paint door hangers. And first of all, I didn't know what a door hanger was, so I had to look it up. And there's this like super sub niche of people that paint door hangers. Like they're these flat pieces of wood, and you paint different things, so like things for Valentine's Day or Christmas or just like welcoming and all these things. And it's amazing. There's 750 people in this group.
Wow.
Think about this, people. Do the math. Like I can't actually remember how much it costs, but imagine it's $40 a month.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think in the online space, the world is a very, very big planet. There are billions of people, and some of them have some obscure interests in common. And building a community for those people is actually a great opportunity in lots of different ways. It just takes a little bit of creativity and time exploring actually what is it that you are interested in, because there's a very good chance there are a lot of other people interested in that. It's a very interesting time in online business for that very reason, but a lot of people wing it, and I think a lot of people wing it for too long.
Yeah.
Which is why when you see a site or a community, I'm a member of a few online communities, and when they do engage with an effective community manager, it elevates the member experience a lot.
100%.
And I think what's quite interesting with a lot of membership sites, especially in the entrepreneurial space, is people join them either because they're very ambitious, or they have a problem, or they're in crisis. So you have people in that membership where the stakes are quite high. And I'm wondering what common problems your community managers, or when you're managing those communities yourself in the past, what are the common problems that you encounter?
Oh my goodness, such a good question. So I'd say that there's so many things that, so when you're a community manager and you're really invested in it and you care about the people, which I think honestly, like, you need to be. If you're going to do your job right, you need to actually care about the people that are in the space. But I think the number one issue is that community managers, we worry like about everything. And so essentially what made me really good at my job, so when I was actually managing, for example, the accelerator community, when I was in it and doing the management myself, it's almost like like Minority Report. So like Tom Cruise is like moving all these things around in your head, and you're looking at problems and you're looking at possible solutions. Like maybe there's 3 solutions that you could use, but then you're thinking, okay, if I do this, what will happen? And you're thinking it's like the butterfly effect, right? And you're trying to, you're thinking 3 steps ahead, right? To kind of mitigate risk in this sort of thing. And so I would say like the number one issue for community managers is actually setting boundaries for themselves. And I know this probably is not like the response that you're thinking, of, like forward facing towards like situationals, but like for a community manager, what tends to happen is that they're always in there and they can't stop being in there because they feel like, oh, well, I have to catch everything right away. I have to be on it. I can't let things slip, this sort of thing. And so one of the things that I train community managers on is actually setting boundaries. And it applies to the host of the membership, it applies to the community manager, but then also for the members themselves, and really setting expectations of like, okay, when will people be showing up? Like as a community manager, like, are you going to be in there on the weekends, or do you respond right away? Which I highly recommend not doing, because that sets the wrong expectation. It's like, oh, Diana will jump in, or this person will jump in, rather than like the community coming together and supporting each other. So that would be the first thing, like just setting boundaries. But in terms of like situational things that happen, I think obviously people breaking rules. I think that in the entrepreneurial space, the number one issue is self-promotion. And I think for me now, when I go in a community, it's a completely different experience than somebody that's just joining a community because it's a part of a program, because I'm looking at everything and I am so skeptical. I'm like, really? There's a link here. Like, did you really have to have the link? Like, what's going on? Oh, like you're celebrating a win and you're talking about something, but it's actually veiled self-promotion. Like, I'm so skeptical, and like I judge so many people. I'm like, I don't know. Like, where's this coming from? So, yeah, like dealing with self-promotion, I think one of the best things you can do is you need guidelines. First of all, a lot of people just kind of wing it and they say, oh, like we're all adults here. You don't need to have guidelines. And yes, you do. And the number one reason for that is, as a community manager, if you don't have guidelines in place, people don't know what the rules are. They don't know what's expected of them. So they'll just do what they think is okay. And it makes more work for you. Like, you have to then tell someone, oh, actually, we don't do that here. Or, can you remove this link, or don't tag this person, blah, blah, blah. And so it makes more work for the team. And so by having these guidelines, I sort of compare it to like a prenup. I mean, nothing bad's going to happen and we love each other and everything's amazing. But just in case like something goes wrong, here are the rules that I'm going to send you to remind you that, oh, this is what's okay here. And that's the thing, is like most people won't read the guidelines. because they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about getting started and introducing themselves and kind of getting that ball rolling. But then the community guidelines are for the community manager to reference later. So it saves them time when, something bad is happening and they're like, oh my goodness, this person is doing something wrong. They can just drop a link, right? They can just send a private message or they can do it publicly. And it makes it so much easier, to kind of keep the peace, I guess. And then I guess the other, just one more thing, there's so many, I could talk for hours. But one more thing I would say that people struggle with would be the balance between coaching and community. So this is another thing that people don't even realize is that as a community manager, if you are answering questions, you're actually coaching. Okay. And so, for example, when I was working with Accelerator, I was actually a coach and a community manager, which is like oil and vinegar because my job as a coach is to answer people's questions. But then my job as a community manager is to facilitate connection between members. And so in that case, coaching trumps, community management because you have to answer the questions. And so, when you're in a community or you have a community for yourself, this desire to answer questions, that's coaching, right? And so there's this, you want to make sure that as you're setting up kind of the foundation of your community, that you're separating the coaching from the community. So in your community, imagine you do want to answer questions and provide that sort of feedback. I would recommend having it either on a live call, getting people to submit questions, and maybe you do like a Facebook Live once a week, or you hop on a Zoom call once a week, so that the coaching is kind of separate. And then you really just establish the fact that the community is a space for the members to connect with each other. It's not like your soapbox for you to just go and be like, I'm amazing and I know everything and you can ask me all your questions. Because when that happens, people stop looking at each other and they just stare at you. They don't care what anybody else thinks. They just want your answer. They want you to comment. So sure, that's great when you have 20 people. What about 500? What about 1,000? What about 5,000? Right? And so that's the thing, is setting the expectation from day one that it's a space to connect with each other, not a space to get coaching from the host or from the community manager.
I think I've seen that actually. I've watched the transition in a couple of memberships I'm in where people were very hands-on maybe a year or two ago, but they have slowly sort of delegated that first point of contact to community managers, and it's very effective. But what I wonder is how important it is, and there probably isn't one answer, but how important it is for that community manager to really be an expert in that field. Because that's going to have an impact on the cost of that community manager.
Yep.
So what's your experience around that?
Okay, this is so good because what I would say is that as a community manager, like I said, it's not their job to answer questions. It's not their job to coach. So technically speaking, I would say that a community manager doesn't need to be an expert in the field of that topic. Now, there's an asterisk to that. If they know about it, or if they're knowledgeable, or they're kind of on a journey learning about it, then that's a good thing. So for example, perfect example is my client who has the Etsy shop coaching membership. Okay. So she has a community manager who actually used to be a member. So kind of the same situation as me. He was this amazing member. He was just doing all of these amazing things. And so she moved him into the role of community manager. So, but the thing is though, he moved into community manager, but now he's transitioning into being a coach. Okay. And so she then realized, okay, we need to bring on somebody else to basically be the community manager. And the person that we brought on was somebody they'd been working with before, but she does not have an Etsy shop. She does not have experience with that. And so that was the biggest concern or insecurity of that person themselves. They were like, I'm not an Etsy shop seller. Like, I can't answer questions. I'm not going to be able to do this. And so like, I think on day one of our training, I said, that is totally okay, because your job is to be a human. Your job is to assess how people are feeling and make them feel certain emotions. Maybe it's feeling proud of themselves or accepted or supported. That's actually something else a lot of people totally gloss over, is you need to understand the emotional needs of your members. Because if you don't understand that, you can't be strategic at all with the community, because emotion is the strategy when it comes to community. And so you reverse engineer that. And so for her, she was really insecure about that point, but it actually, for me, it makes it easier because then you set the expectation like, hey guys, I'm not an Etsy shop seller, but I'm here to support you, to connect you with the right information, to help, the conversations flow, to like have fun and like let her personality come out. So I would say that it can actually be an asset because it makes it easier to have that boundary of she's not a coach. She doesn't answer questions. You have to go to this live or you need to go to this place over here to get, questions answered. But as a community manager, I would say, like, for example, like we're looking to hire one right now for a client and, she, for example, with the door hangers, so she doesn't paint door hangers. She used to be an art teacher though. So for me, I'm like, okay, she's creative. She's in that space, but I'm much more focused on assessing her as a whole in terms of the role, which actually brings us back to those 9 key points. So those assessment points that I mentioned really quick at the beginning, but I kind of reined myself in. Like, let's just really high level talk about that because like I said before, most people just think, oh, community manager, find somebody who's like really fun and engaging and empathetic. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's personality. That's key number 3. The first key is thought process. So when I actually do like a hiring process to find candidates, we have, the typical things like let's get your resume, your cover letter, but I actually create an assignment. So there's 8 questions usually, and they're pulled from the community. They're either real situations or they're fake ones that I create so I can see them in action. Like I want to see how they're going to handle it, how they're going to write, and also their thought process. So it's like, why are they handling this situation in the way they're handling it? Just so I can get a better taste of like, okay, how does this person think and handle situations? Key number 2 is writing skill, because online, like 96 or 97% of the communication is in writing. Yes, they might have a Facebook Live, they might send videos or audios, but they need to be able to write in a way that really connects people and triggers emotion. Like you need to be a strong writer. That's probably the number 1 key, like after thought process. The third key, personality and connection. So this is where it's like they're a cheerleader or they're empathetic or they just have a really friendly personality. Like I got a couple nicknames. So when I was managing the community for Accelerator, people were calling me the empathy ninja and then also the mother hen. So like you can get a feel, right? So it's like, oh, like the mother hen energy in a very masculine, very like no BS sort of environment. Because that's the, like if you guys know Ramit Sethi, like that's the kind of vibe of the company. And that was the vibe of this membership. And then I came in and sort of brought this friendly, silly mother hen permission to be yourself energy, which people loved. So like personality is super important. Number 4, tech savvy. Like, can this person work in a Facebook group? Can they reply in like a threaded reply? Can they use Google Docs and share it properly so people can actually go in? Like all these different things, like Zoom, all these different pieces of technology that, they're going to need to use on a daily basis. Number 5, succinct communication, right? So can this person be very direct in writing and also with speaking? And the reason I look at this is not really forward facing for the membership. It's more for the host and the team behind the scenes, because there is nothing worse than having somebody that will send you like 5-page emails when they could have sent it in like a paragraph, right? So like
I have a couple of clients like that.
Right? It's the worst. It's like, dude, and this has been sort of burnt into me from working with Ramit Sethi. Like this is like his team is just absolutely amazing in making it so when you send an email or a message, you do the heavy lifting, you do the work, so that the other person has to just say yes or no. So you provide context, you provide all the links they need, you're very proactive. And so that's one of the things I look for. Like I want to find a community manager that makes less work for you and your team. Like that's one of my big goals. So it's like looking at how they communicate. And we do that obviously in writing through the application, but also during their interview, because we ask very strategic questions during the interview. And it's almost like a podcast. You don't stop them, you just let them talk. So can they be succinct and can they just answer the questions, So that's super important. I think number 6, this is one of the biggest things that people don't even think about, but availability and future growth. So a lot of times what will happen is when you find a unicorn or somebody that's amazing at what they do, they have another gig. Okay, so they have like their own business, or they're trying to set something up, or they're trying to do something else. And you have to be very careful so that you actually hire someone that can grow with you and that doesn't have kind of other priorities, because you don't want them to go away from you. You want them to kind of grow with you and be with you long term, especially like if you're investing good money, like training them and bringing them into your team. And it's a community manager. It's one of those forward-facing positions. So for example, if you have a membership of 500 people, they're going to basically fall in love with this person because that person's going to take care of them and become a part of their life. And so when they leave, because some like people leave, right? And so if they leave, it can be really hard to then find a replacement that your members will actually accept and like kind of welcome in. So that's the thing, trying to find somebody that's like long-term future growth. And that's actually the number 7 is long-term commitment. So it's not that somebody's interested in, like 6 months or 3 months. Like we're talking like 2 years minimum or more, which is very difficult online. It's hard to find somebody that's looking to commit for that long. Number 8, organization skills and schedule. This is something, again, behind the scenes, making sure that they can set boundaries and create a schedule so that they're not just mindlessly scrolling and being reactionary. They're actually being strategic. Like right now I'm creating content. Right now I'm creating, an email to send to the host to let them know what's going on in the community. Managing and just scrolling, making sure that, all of the rules are being followed, enforcing guidelines, sprinkling in some comments, like really time blocking and creating that schedule. And then number 9, punctuality. And it's so funny. Like literally, it's just like, when does this person arrive for the live interview? And I've had people that arrive 5 minutes early. I've had people arrive late or like bang on. And so like punctuality, it's a small thing, but imagine if behind the scenes you have a team call and this person is always late. That drives me nuts. So it's, again, like it's a very holistic assessment of a person for the role. So it's not just, are they empathetic and a cheerleader? It's like, are they going to really support you with your business and with your membership, like now and into the future?
And I think that support is key. If you are making that investment in a community manager, you can't afford to get that wrong, because if you get it wrong, your whole community sees it.
Exactly.
And the damage can last, I imagine, for many years. Yep.
It's the thing, like this is the thing, like people, and I think this is why sometimes people are a little bit scared about having like a very prominent community manager, like a person that's like a member of the team, like they're out there, because they are forward facing. People get attached. We're human. And this is the thing. I think, I'm like everything that I do, I'm very specific with community management, like training and hiring community managers. But like I'm in the business of human connection. And it's, in writing, it's in video, it's how you express yourself in different situations. And the thing is with a community, people are struggling. They have a problem. And then you have this person that just makes them feel so supported. Like I have like a perfect example was, so Stu McLaren. So he created the program called Tribe. So that's actually for memberships as well. And he has another membership called Connect. And what was it? The community. So it's a fun story. What was it? Last June, I completely burnt out. I just hit a wall. I could not do anything. And I thought I needed a vacation for a month. I ended up not working for 5 months, just about 5 months, like literally could not sit in front of a computer. It's the weirdest, most horrible situation I've ever experienced, but it was definitely needed to kind of reassess the work that I was doing. I was doing way too much and I wasn't focused. And so when I came back from this, I remember that Renelle, the community manager, she sent me a message. And I think it was about a month or 2 in, and it was just literally a message saying, "Hey Diana, like I've noticed you haven't been in the community recently, and I just wanted to see if you're okay." And even just saying that right now, I have goosebumps, because it makes you feel like, oh my God, like they care. They notice if I'm there or not. And it just opened up this beautiful conversation of like, thank you so much. Like, I'm just having a rough time right now. How can I get the most from this? And it was a beautiful thing. And it literally took maybe 2 minutes from her. And here's the thing too, like, let's be strategic, take a little bit of the emotion out of that. She might just have a template that says, put in the name here. Hey, I've noticed you haven't been in here a while. And maybe she has like tracking or data that says, hey, this person hasn't been in the community for a month. You should message them. Right? So it can be very, like, this is the thing. It's like when you kind of like go behind the scenes, a lot of this is very like, there's strategies, there's systems, it's very strategic. But when it's on the other side, if you do it well, it does not feel like that. It feels authentic. It feels real. And again, it's all about that human connection, like making somebody feel seen, heard, accepted, all of those things that honestly, I think in today's world, like, we're all kind of starved for that human connection.
I think something I'd like to maybe move on to, because you've painted the picture of the ideal situation there. And there's two places I want to go. One is, okay, what does a car crash look like? And the other is, who shouldn't start a membership online community? But maybe if we start with, okay, who is maybe ripe for launching some kind of online community? And then we can talk about when it all goes wrong afterwards, and we can have a laugh at other people's expense.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is fantastic. So with community, so first of all, like, I'm just going to be very clear. Like, I really don't like free Facebook groups. So to me, because the way I look at community, it's about fostering connection and supporting people who have invested money with you, right? Whereas with free Facebook groups, it's a lead generation tool to sell people. And so I don't know what it is about my brain. I just can't wrap my head around. It just feels not nice. It's kind of exploiting community. So some people do that. That's great. I don't like that. But the thing that I noticed, so for example, there are people that do free Facebook groups and they do them beautifully, right? They actually offer value. They help people. They move forward. And then they pitch, which is fine. But actually recently I joined somebody's free Facebook group and I walked in. And so this is the experience I had. It literally was like, I joined the group and the first post I saw was recommending to join somebody else's program. And I was like, oh, okay. Scroll a little bit. Cause for me, I'm like looking for what's this place all about? Where can I introduce myself? Like pretty standard things. And as I was scrolling, like it was just post after post of promoting themselves, promoting other people, join us, be a part of the family, but with a price tag. It was just so like, it was just gross. Like it was just like, the way I wrote an email to my list, and I think I described it as like being in the line at Starbucks and like seeing somebody and then suddenly being married with like 3 kids and you just jump like, whoa, like I made eye contact with you and now we're like retired on a porch and we have, like it's just like, what is going on? So I feel like there's this, like people sometimes just don't get what goes into community. And so now, for example, though, imagine if somebody has a course or they have a membership and they're like, okay, I understand that I need to have a community to boost retention. If you're only looking at it in terms of numbers, you probably shouldn't do it, because not only will it not be rewarding for you, it's going to be massively draining because it's way more work than you think it is. And so like this idea of, okay, I'll just set this group up and it'll go with the course, it'll go with the membership. People can quote unquote engage and everything will just, if you build it, they will come, Field of Dreams. And it just really, it does not work that way. And it creates a bad experience for your clients. It's like, you're basically sending the message that we're not worth investing the time in. Like, we're not worth having boundaries. We're not worth, having you show up here. And like, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I've seen it. Actually, it's really funny too, because a lot of my students that were in the accelerator program, or people that are in communities that I've sort of touched. So if I've helped businesses kind of optimize their group, people reach out to me and they say, Diana, I thought that all communities were like your communities. And then they go into someone else's and they're just like, what like, oh my God, like, no, like just so disorganized, no rules, like a pitch fest. Everyone's promoting themselves. Nobody cares about anybody else. The host isn't there. There's nobody actually. It's like just basically like putting kids in a room and just letting them do whatever they want. Like no boundaries, like, oh, climbing up the walls. And, you know, I think that just that alone, having people reach out to me and say like, hey, like your communities are amazing. Like you create this space that allows us to focus on not only the goals and what we're dealing with, but also each other, like, and connect and have fun and like make friends. Like that really is the essence of it. So, I mean, yeah, like in terms of those car crashes, I think it's one of those disappointing situations where somebody is just like, you know, this strategy says I have to have a Facebook group, so I'm just going to do that. And then they check it off their list. And like for me, community is so much more than that. And it's just really, yes, it is a time investment. Yes, like hiring somebody to manage it is a constant, you know, cost. But the benefits of it, I think are like, you can't really measure them because A, it's retention. B, it's product research. So for example, when you get people really comfortable in there, they start talking about their problems or what they want to get help with. You can potentially do customer research. It's an amazing way to get testimonials and do case studies with your clients because you can see what's happening and then reach out to them and say, hey, we'd love to feature you. Can we hop on a call? Like there's just so many benefits that it really, for me at least, it really outweighs the cost of, you know, having somebody managing it and taking care of it for you.
And I guess sort of to push the question a little bit, who should start a membership site?
Oh, okay. This is really interesting because I think that you have to be somebody that has boundaries. So even for myself, here's the deal with me. I love helping people. And I find it very difficult to not help people. So like the coach in me wants to jump in and answer questions. And so, for example, I hosted, I was doing a beta for a training program to train community managers. And I had a Mighty Networks group, like a community that went with it. And after the first week, I had to write a post and laugh because I said, hey guys, so I realized that this is a coaching platform. It's not a community because they just wanted to ask me questions. They were like, oh, like, can you answer this? Can you do this? And it was interesting because they didn't need a community. Because this is the thing, like, spoiler alert, not every program, not everything you have has to have a community, right? So even with a membership, you might have a membership where people just literally want to get a PDF each month, or maybe it's just like a live coaching call each month, and that's it. And that's okay. But in terms of like people and like trying to assess yourself, like, should I have a membership and like a membership community? Number one is making sure you have boundaries. So can you stop yourself from coaching? Because if you start coaching in your membership, so imagine like the ecosystem of your business. If you offer one-on-one coaching or group coaching, which is quite expensive, and then you have a cheaper membership, people will start to think, like if you're jumping in and answering all the questions all the time, people are going to think, well, why would I sign up for group coaching or this one-on-one when she's always jumping in and answering the questions in the membership? I'm just going to have the membership, right? So you have to be very careful. And I've seen many membership owners close their membership for exactly this reason, because they could not kind of create that boundary for themselves, and it basically it cannibalized their other offers, right? And so you need to make sure that you're not going to kind of go buck wild and start coaching in your membership. And I would say the second thing as well is like figuring out if that's actually what your people need. Like I love the business model of a membership, right? It's recurring income and you get to like really love on your members. And I'm definitely an advocate for it. But I do feel like in some cases, like in some niches, people don't need that. They need a course, or they need maybe a mastermind, or maybe they need something else that's going to give them like the result that they're looking for. So I would say asking yourself, like, is this the best way for them to get results? Because again, it's about the human in this equation. It's not about the numbers. It's not about, doing the math. It's about, hey, this person has a problem. They want to solve it. I can help them solve it. What's going to be the best way? And like, maybe you have options. Maybe it is one-on-one. Maybe it is coaching. Maybe it is a membership, but just making sure that you can really separate those and not have the membership kind of eat away at your other offers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a really, really good answer. I think what I'd like to talk about next is you spoke about the unicorn community manager.
Yeah.
And the reality is you are in a super niche. Like, it's a very, very small niche, and your ideal customer is already a unicorn business owner. So I'm curious to explore with you, what does your own marketing look like? How do you go about connecting with these ideal customers? Because I imagine they're all over the world. They're very, very busy people. So how do you cross that bridge so they know about you?
This is such a good question, and especially for right now, because, so like I said before, I was marketing myself as sort of like community, help you build your community, set up your community, engage your community, this sort of thing. And I realized, so after I burnt out, I realized that really what I love is I love coaching like community managers. I love training them, but I also like finding them for clients. And so I'm in this new space where I'm literally like, I've got like this new positioning, but the world doesn't know it yet. And so it's this kind of this uncomfortable space of, okay, like I've pivoted, I've changed, everything is set up, and this is the work that I'm doing, but the world is still under the impression that I'm doing what I was doing before, like 6 months ago. Yeah. And so my plan actually, and it's funny because I've been working on this, I've been kind of like sitting with my bullet journal and just really jamming on like, what's the best for my clients, like these ideal clients, but also what is the most fun for me? Because I've realized that in the past, I've done things sometimes because I thought that they were what I was supposed to be doing, but they were so heavy. And so looking at my past history, one of the best things I've done is writing ultimate guides. So I actually have 2 ultimate guides. So from the past, I've got the ultimate guide to building an online community, a profitable online community, and then also the ultimate guide to engaging community members. And it's like my beefy guide that basically downloads my brain on everything that you need to know on building and engaging a community, a paid community. So not a free Facebook group, but a paid course or membership group. And so I did that. And what I found, what was fascinating, is that people would read my guide. It would be so beefy and it would make them realize, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. And they would just reach out to me and they say, hey, can you help me build this? Or can you work with me and coach me on building this or engaging my community or this sort of thing? And it was perfect. It basically brings awareness, but people at that level, they just didn't have the time or didn't want to do it themselves. So they would pay me to do it. And so what I plan to do moving forward is I'm going to write the ultimate guide to hiring a community manager, a unicorn community manager. But I'm also going to write more ultimate guides. So for example, like the ultimate guide to training a community manager, the ultimate guide to down the line, I want to branch out because like you said, I'm super niche right now. And that makes me really uncomfortable, but I feel like it's the right step for right now to just be very focused. But as I sort of create that content and move outwards, I want to create ultimate guides, for example, like the ultimate guide to setting up a pop-up Facebook group to launch. So that's the only exception, right? So before I was saying like, I don't like free Facebook groups. The only exception is a pop-up group, because a pop-up group, if you've never heard of that, that is a group that you create and it's live and you use it for say 3 weeks. And you offer massive value, then you launch your product, and then when you're finished launching, you close the group. You don't keep it open forever. It's not like this, it's not lead generation forever and ongoing and never ending. It's for a specific time period. And actually, right now, my good friend Gladys Atto, she's a leadership expert, and she is doing that right now. So she's had a 3-day live event. She just opened her cart for her Story Mentory program, and now she's getting on calls with people to see if they're a good fit. And this community, like, she just creates space for people to explore their story. And so that's the only type of free Facebook group that I would ever want to touch. So for example, for me, I'm like, okay, ultimate guide to that. And then even previous clients, they've said, what about, building a Facebook group from scratch for your course. And in my head, I'm like, I'm not sure that I really want to do that because people don't care. Usually at that point, they're kind of like, whatever, I'll just set up myself. But I think down the line, there's so many different places that I can touch on. And I would say that's probably my number one strategy, Ultimate Guides. I'd say the second one is podcast interviews like this. I love talking with people and just jamming about community. And I think it's an easy, like it's the perfect way to give people a taste of what I'm like. Like this is 100% me. Like when I'm on a call, if I'm doing any sort of coaching or any work with people, like this is me. I swear a little bit more. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I've been waiting for it and it hasn't happened.
Oh, I know. I was just so funny because I had this moment halfway through. I was like, wait a second. I'm not sure if swearing is okay. So I'm just going to make it like nice and like, I can drop the F-bomb. Do we have the green light for some swearing? Colorful language. That would be the only difference, really. I would be probably dropping F-bombs and whatnot. Probably a little bit more. But I feel like finding a couple ways that you just really love in order to and just really focusing on that. Like, I'm also getting into Instagram a little bit. Like I love Instagram stories. They're just so much fun. And actually like I have a couple for today. So like I
know, I can't wait.
Right? Like what was it? Before this podcast, I don't know what I was doing. I was like strutting around my kitchen. I was like, I'm going to record this. So it's like a pre-podcast strut around my kitchen. And I think that's really the key. Like a lot of my good friends who are very successful business owners, like they just keep saying like, have fun. Find what is fun because you'll do it. Like it's easy. So like for me, I like writing Ultimate Guides. I like, for example, like maybe even hosting webinars. Like I love coaching. I love answering questions. Like if you sit me in a room with people and just throw questions at me, I could do that for hours. And actually that was what happened a little bit at Mike and Callie's event, Retain Live. And so I spoke, that was like the first time that I spoke actually, which I was really proud of because I got really good reviews. But I spoke there, but then there was a panel afterwards. And so people would just line up at the microphone and ask questions. I could do that all day, every day. Like, I love answering, like, and when you're asking questions, my brain is just like, exploding, like, oh, like so many good like things that I want to share. And so, yeah, I think that's the key in terms of promoting yourself, getting your message out there. Find something that works. And also, if you're doing something and it's not really working, be okay with stopping it. So, for example, I started a podcast a while back and I paused it after I don't even remember, it's probably embarrassing, like 5 episodes or 6 episodes because I did not have a good system in place for the back end. Yeah. And so I was like, this is not the best use of my time. In the future, do I want to have a podcast? Hell yes, I do, because I love this. I love talking to amazing people and just learning from, their specific set of skills and experiences. But right now, it doesn't make sense. So for me, it's like writing Ultimate Guides, doing trainings, doing podcast interviews. I've also, actually, one thing that's really great as well is being a guest expert. So I've hosted a couple workshops. So I just recorded one for the Youpreneur Academy. So that's, I think, coming out in May. And then I've done some for some smaller mastermind groups, one for Digital Marketer, one for Teachable. So like pitching yourself and really putting yourself out there for media. So this is another thing as well, like really being comfortable with putting yourself out there and just like making sure that you can get your message in front of the right people.
I think I would like to come back to that topic on another podcast interview with you, because that's one area that I know a lot of people would like to go deep on. But we've probably come to the end of our time now.
Definitely.
And I genuinely mean, you're the person I would like to speak about that with, because I know you've done a lot of work there and it's been successful. But for now, we would probably need to wrap things up.
Definitely. I would love to jam about that. And I actually do have a secret weapon, so I can talk about that too.
And I love secret weapons. They're my favorite thing. So Diana, I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask every guest, or have asked every guest for the last 5 episodes or so. I'm trying to get properly organized and remember to ask this question every time. But what's one thing you do now that you wish you'd started 5 years ago?
That's such a good question. Oh my gosh, there's so many different things I want to say. I would say the number one thing would be niching down. Because when I first started, I was like, community for everyone and anyone. And you just get lost in a sea of everybody out there. And like, I couldn't really get traction, and it was really demoralizing, so you're trying, that you have something special that's like inside of you, and you can't get like that validation of, yes, like people are throwing money at you or people are getting value from your programs. Like, I didn't have focus. And so it was very hard to move forward. And so, like I said, after I burnt out in June, I'm super niche right now. And it just, while it scares me, because I think, oh my gosh, like super niche, like I'm cutting out all of these other people, and like people will reach out and say, oh, can you help me with this? And I'm like, actually, I don't do that anymore. So like turning people away, it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
But having that niched down focus makes everything so much easier. And I really wish that I'd done that right from the get-go. Just given myself permission to focus on like one person, one type of person, one situation, and then give myself permission to grow after that.
That's a great answer. And Diana, if people want to connect with you, how would you like them to do that?
They can come on over to dianatower.com, and that's where I said, so I've got my ultimate guides there. And also, if you are looking to hire a unicorn community manager, I do have a form on my homepage, so you can share some more context on your membership and your business, and I can take a look and we can hop on a call.
Diana, you've been a great guest. I've had great fun. Thank you very much for your time. I can't wait to speak to you again.
Yay, thank you so much. I'm super excited. We'll have to book in for the next one, because I can, like, again, like with promotion and getting media and publicity, like that's such a huge part of how I've gotten to where I am right now, but also transitioning and changing my niche. It's been so helpful.
I can't wait to speak to you about that. See you soon.
See you.
Everyone has an online community of some kind. Whether it's just your friends on Facebook or Instagram, a Facebook group, or a full-on paid membership community, how you make your people feel is such an important thing to think about. Before I go, just a quick reminder to subscribe, and if you haven't already, then join our Facebook group. And yeah, I feel a little awkward about that after speaking to Diana. You can find a link in the show notes, or just visit amplifyme.fm/insiders, and you'll be taken right there. I would love to connect with you on social media. You can follow me or connect with me everywhere you hang out. You'll just find me at Bob Gentle. If you do, then message me and let me know so I can follow you back. If you enjoyed the show, then I would love for you to review it on iTunes. It would mean a lot to me, and it's the very best way to help me reach new subscribers. My name's Bob Gentle. Thanks again to Diana for giving us her time this week, and to you for listening. And see you next week.